Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course a whole lot of opinions about Brandon's works and the Cosmere. I'm Eric, and joining me is Ian.
Hey, I'm Windrunner.
Also joining us is David.
Hey, I'm Windrunner.
And also we have Joshua.
And I'm jofwu.
We didn't have enough entertaining people for the intro this time.
We actually get it done
I can
on
blow up
time.
my spaceship since we're talking about spaceships.
I got a Bridge 4 mask. It's very comfortable.
I have a star spread.
So exciting.
There, we did it.
Wow. Neat. So I'm Chaos, and what we're going to do today is a reading from the release party for Rhythm of War. I believe I was at work and you guys were all pinging me like, dude, when are we going to do a podcast about this? We had a careful, planned Rhythm of War schedule, and Brandon just has to do a crazy reading. So this reading, it'll be linked in the description in the comments if you have not read it. This is kind of a weird spoiler warning here. Six of the Dusk is far in the future, and this has like space age Cosmere kind of spoilers. Like that, if you're sensitive to that sort of thing, this is probably not the episode for you.
Yeah. Like, I don't consider myself to be spoiled by anything, but if you don't want to know literally anything about what Brandon's planning for the future of the Cosmere, this is not the podcast for you today.
Right.
It's definitely illustrative of the end state of the Cosmere.
Yes.
And how certain factions are at play.
Yes.
I don't feel like there's any direct spoilers, but I can see how there's a lot of like spoilers by implication that when you see this here, you can sort of draw a line to things that maybe starts to spoil for you.
Yeah, Kaladin doesn't pop up being like, oh yeah, we beat Odium, don't worry about it. Hello.
But obviously Cosmere spoilers. We might touch on Rhythm of War stuff, I don't know, but
I think maybe a little bit.
I think okay, yeah. All right, cool.
Just to be safe.
But mostly general Cosmere stuff. So this reading is very much an unfinished draft. It's just the beginning of this. So Brandon said this didn't even go through reading group. So a lot of these things can change and some contradictions exist. But there's a lot for us to pick apart, and we absolutely did need to do a podcast. So sorry it took us a bit to get there. We kind of wanted to talk about Rhythm of War more as the big thing. So go read it below, then come back, and then we'll talk about it. Well, David, you're the one who's most excited, so why don't you just lead us in?
So I'll do a really quick summary, and then we'll kind of move through the interesting things that happened in a roughly chronological order. But, we're going to hop around because this is pretty cool.
This is Shardcast.
The events of the story are more or less like 5 or 6 years after the events of Six of the Dusk. If you've read that, Dusk is watching a spaceship leave the landing platform carrying 2 Scadrian aliens that have basically come down and said, all right, your time is up. We are setting up a plant on Pot G to start running, getting birds off this planet. We'll be back in a few months, like no more delays. So they're not super happy about that and are trying to figure out what to do. And then a Radiant shows up and says, hey, you don't have to join them. You can join us and we'll give you 1% of the birds back, which is technically a better deal. Join or die. And then he leaves.
Join or die.
Yeah, more or less. And then at the end, they more or less come to the conclusion that Six needs to go through that perpendicularity to try to find other allies in the Cosmere. So it's just probably like the prologue or the very first chapter of this story.
What an awesome hook. Holy crap. I'm into this.
Yeah, when he was reading it, I literally just couldn't believe the words that were coming out of his mouth. Like, I was like, you gotta stop in a second here. Like, he can't keep going. And he just kept reading.
I was at work. I didn't get this experience of being in chat.
I was in a voice chat with Paleo, and we were just like, we couldn't believe that like he was doing this. And then Matt like popped into the voice chat and said like, am I going insane right now? Like, is Brandon actually reading this?
Yeah. If you don't know anything about me, I'm not the biggest Six of the Dusk fan, but I'm super into this story. This sounds amazing. And as Ian has told, Six of the Dusk will be a better story with the sequel. So I'm in. I'm super in. This sounds awesome.
Yeah. And Brandon had mentioned that the theoretical Six of the Dusk sequel would involve Dusk going into Shadesmar.
He did say that.
The cognitive realm.
Yep.
But actually seeing the setup for why that happens
yes.
is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we get to see Scadrians and Shards. How awesome is that? Like, and it's pretty obvious which one's which, too.
Yes.
Like, so let's talk about the Scadrians. And we're not gonna go like read the entire thing.
I don't think so.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that. We got too much blabber to do.
So just jumping off on things that are not quite canon yet. The unfortunate fact is this scene revolves around them discovering that the ones above are human, which is a fact they did know in Six of the Dusk.
Maybe
because
they
they'd
forgot.
actually had an ambassador who had died in front of them after choking to death on some food. So they do know that they're human, and there probably will have to be some sort of change to that. But
the Aviar made them forget, like at the end of Fantastic Beasts. There's a bird there too.
And then people will just remember in the next movie for no apparent reason.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
World building.
But they're pretty clearly Scadrians, because when they leave on their ship, they're like, yo, we need a platform that's pure steel. So that indicates steel pushing. Good way to get lift.
Well, so sort of, except it's a little bit weird to me because I mean, I don't know if it's some kind of like fabrial, kind of like we start to see in Era 2, because you can't I can't imagine somebody actually, like a person using steel pushing to like launch themselves all the way into
I don't
orbit,
think it's actually
an
Allomancer. I'm sure it's using that ability, but mechanically.
A device.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and I think they're probably still using that weight trick on the ship as well to probably lower the mass a little bit. Like, you wouldn't want it to be so light it's getting blown around like a kite.
Yeah.
But they
sure
do have
makes it
options.
easier.
Yeah.
It sure makes it a lot easier to lift water and stuff into space if you could just lower the weight of the thing. They have some weird helmets. Their helmets retracted automatically, but left stylized metal portions covering the side of the head, reaching out and covering the cheeks. From the look of the delicate metal ribbed like ripples of waves, those portions didn't seem like armor, more like ornament.
See, I'm like, are those modern medallions? Is that what this turns into?
I thought this was an outgrowth of like the Southerners wearing masks.
It could be. There's a mask line later on too.
Yes, there is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting they were super pale. Like, I'm not sure if that means that, like, maybe they've just been in space for a long time, but I'm not like, maybe there's a lot of Scadrians in space now. It's like maybe more than on the planet.
Yeah. I think Dusk and like the Elikin Islanders are darker skinned.
Oh,
so
true.
I think,
yeah.
And a lot of Caucasians are like Caucasian. So they are just naturally paler than Elikin. Though probably living in space doesn't help that.
I don't think living in space helps.
The Southerners on Scadrian are supposed to be pretty pale, particularly pale, aren't they?
I don't remember.
The ones that wear the masks all the time, probably.
Right. That's well.
They're not getting their face sunburned.
I mean, obviously these aren't wearing their masks all the time, though. So either that died away or they're not those people.
When I first read the line about the helmets retracting, for a minute I was like, is this plate? Because they're like mentioning the metal, but then I'm like, it's obviously that it's not, because we see plate later. But I was like, oh, that's interesting. I guess it's just regular helmets, not anything special like that.
Yeah, Scadrial is interesting because, like, Rashar's supposed to be kind of like the Magitech planet, I think, but Scadrial is also doing Magitech, so I'm never sure how much to interpret of what they do, like being just like regular like Earth kind of technology, and how much I'm like, well, maybe a medallion or some sort of metallic arts thing is involved.
I mean, with this story, it's clearly like these are two different Magitech types, and they're going to use them a lot, presumably, right? Yeah, the metal on it is interesting because that sort of assumes, like, in Mistborn, metal is inherently kind of a drawback to have on your body, right?
Yeah.
But now maybe they just don't care.
It is a funny place to ended up. You know,
it's only
like
I was just gonna say it's only a drawback if you're fighting other Allomancers, right?
Guess,
so like if they're all feel like they're on the same team, then
which
I don't know.
Yeah, it is funny though, like from Era 1 where they were like, you do not wear metal too. They've got it literally like permanently on their skin.
Because I mean, if it's touching them, then they could potentially use it as metal mines, you know, like crazy things like that. Maybe it's an advantage to have metal that's like a bit invested versus like enemies, like that would prevent like lashings and stuff.
Maybe like a modern version of the, you know, like the tinfoil helmets they started wearing in Era 2.
I mean, that's true though. That's totally true. They probably have a much more efficient way of doing that.
Yeah, and they have Aviar, so like who knows? Maybe they've got an emotion manipulating Aviar here. Like there's clearly a lot of powers. So
yeah, we got to talk about
which one of you said that it reminded you of medallions? You're saying you think that their helmet itself is like a fabrial?
I think that the facial ornamentation is what medallions perhaps could have turned into, more or less. Like just kind of like it just seems like you know, like cybernetics almost is what it's kind of become, opposed from just those really like crude medallions that they would have to hold against their skin.
I mean, Brandon has mentioned wanting to write a cyberpunk Mistborn. So
That's true. That's true. That is true. And then there's a line that our masters don't have infinite patience. I don't know about you. This just makes me think of Kelsier. I don't know. He's not very patient.
No, he's not.
Let's be honest. Like if Mraize said that, our masters don't have infinite patience. You'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah.
Don't know. Go ahead.
This is kind of a hard conversation to get into, I think, until we get to the Radiant at the end there. But one thing I would like to get to here is who is heading these factions?
Yes. Yeah.
And can we assume that these aliens are representative of all of Scadrial, or is it just like a fraction? You know, is the Radiant like representative? Does all of Rashar like support what this one
that's true
Radiant is doing, or is it just, you know, a group of them that are at opposition with some others? And so that kind of feeds into this question of who are these masters? Like, is it Kelsier, right? Is it do we want to do, we're doing Rhythm of War spoilers? Is it you know, the Ghost Bloods that they're part of? Is it Shards? Are the Shards involved? Because it could be a single shard, it could be masters implies like more than one, but it could be like multiple shards that are allied together. I was going to say kind of a crazy theory, but you could imagine that, like, is there a chance that Harmony gets split back into Ruin and Preservation, and that those are the masters? I don't know.
After reading Rhythm of War, I do think there is a compelling argument for the ones above to be the Ghost Bloods, because in Rhythm of War we see them trying to figure out how to make Stormlight transportable. It's like Mraize has the whole conversation about it's the power, like trying to solve the power problem. And we see in this book the ones above are supplying power to
that's true.
First of the Sun.
I like it.
Could be. I don't think it's Kelsier and the Ghost Bloods personally. I don't think Kelsier, if he's involved, in my opinion, this is based on nothing. If Kelsier is involved in Era 4, I think it's like maybe he's pulling strings in the Scadrian government, but I think he's not. I don't see Kelsier becoming president of Scadrial either secretly or openly. I think he's probably going to be the Ghost Bloods, unless it's just a front organization, are too secret agenty for me to think that they are heavily involved in. Maybe they could be like have taken over the Scadrian government, but
yeah.
But that goes back to my point. Like, we don't know that like these two aliens like represent Scadrial. Like, they're just the aliens that are there. Like, they could easily just be like a. I don't know, it is more upfront than what we've seen the Ghostbloods do so far, but it's also like far future. Maybe they're in a different place now. I don't know.
I would say that I think that these Scadrians are representative of at least a large block of Scadrians, because like the Radiant references like ongoing expansion efforts and like multiple like this is a large Scadrian push doing something. Like, so while I think there might be some detractors, it sounds like an empire.
It sounds like the Scadrians versus Shards, which it's really cool. Like, oh man, it's so cool.
Yeah, but the other thing I was thinking of for the Masters was the Faceless Immortals, the new Trell Faceless Immortals.
Oh yeah,
which I don't think they took over. It's interesting that might be another avatar of autonomy, and they're going to a planet with an avatar of autonomy. Like, I don't know how that would work out.
Who knows how that's gonna work out? Like, we have so many books until then, so it's there's a lot of options there, right?
Yeah, maybe they're mad and they're like, we're gonna go down and find all of the avatars of autonomy because we're pretty pissed about Trell.
Yeah,
I mean, it could autonomy have like kind of planted this, Pat G and like everything, way back whenever, as seeing towards the future and seeing how this would be important one day, and now she's like back to like make good on that investment. You know what I mean? Like she kind of seeded the Aviar in the first place, and now she's like back to take the Aviar to whatever ends that she's working on.
I think potentially. I think that Pachi is very much pro First of the Sun remaining independent. My like thoughts of autonomy are more that I think autonomy foresaw these coming expansion efforts and was like, how do I equip these planets that don't have shards to not get so easily pushed around?
Sure.
Slash Trell is, she's like, oh, this one's getting out of hand. I'm going to see if I can snuff that out before they expand, and then fails.
Sure. Yeah.
So I do like that idea, but I think both of these could be valid. I think Patji is pro First of the Sun being independent. Bavadin is probably trying to like, yo, I invested in you, now I'm coming to collect.
Yeah, but I mean, it would make sense if the because around the perpendicularity is just super dangerous. So it's like, yo, don't go to this planet. Screw off, right? Like it's that sort of thing.
Yeah, it is. And like, it is implied to be some sort of test, isn't it? If we're assuming that was the letter from Pachi in Oathbringer when they were saying, come to my waters, like, maybe it's not like really a test and it's more a metaphorical test, but
yeah,
like they were saying that the function of the island was to be a test in some way.
Oh man, guys, I hope you listening are like, we're deep in it right now, like so deep into this.
Go to the letter.
I just had to open my ebook of Bands of Mourning because something like our masters don't have infinite patience is like absolutely something I could see someone under the set's Faceless Immortals saying. They don't say a line like that, but it does really feel like that. I don't know. Like, it really feels like they could, but.
Okay. So to quote from the second letter in Oathbringer, this is all we will say at this time. If you wish more, seek these waters in person and overcome the tests we have created. So it's definitely like David's right. There's some tests there.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily just like getting to the perpendicularity or something. Who knows exactly what the tests are to like speak with Pachti. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. There's just so much here that you almost can't even like, start trying to unentangle like all the hanging threads.
Well, yeah, because like we don't. I guess I would have thought they would have dealt with the whole Trell stuff, right? But like, who knows? We have no idea how. That presumably they're not. Well, presumably they're not annihilated, but who knows who's in charge over there, right? And I do want the Shards to kind of take sides in this big struggle because that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think like at least some will for sure. Like there could always be those that are like, no, I'm not getting involved. But
yeah,
like,
I mean, I feel like if you're doing this sort of stuff, you at least need a Shard protecting your civilization from some other like jackass shard. Because like another shard could just come over and just like, no, I'm just gonna nuke this place, right? So you kind of need some big guns backing up your space empire in some way, unless all the shards are dead, which I don't think would be true.
I don't think so. And we even saw that with the Weiry, is that they were like, we are exposed because we don't have a shard.
Right. Yeah.
That's covering us
a great
right
point.
now.
That's a great point.
I have imagined that the future of the Cosmere is very much like shards kind of teaming off towards some end or another.
That sounds awesome.
That said, when I'm looking at this quote again, the masters not having infinite patience, the whole like notion of like the contest of champions being like a good idea because Odium has all the time in the world makes me feel like the masters are not shards, because I would think that a shard would feel like they have infinite patience.
That's true. That's a good point.
That's true. But Odium didn't even end up having infinite patience because he couldn't wait to make that deal, you know?
Well,
like I think theoretically they could wait forever, but sometimes they're forced to act in ways they'd rather not.
Especially if like shards are clashing on a wide scale. Like, yeah, if you're stuck on Roshar, Odium can be like, I'll wait 4,000 years for these suckers to be crappy, and then I'll come back and everything, right? Like that was the whole point with the back of the Way of Kings, right? Where like, well, just let the humans destroy themselves. It'll be fine. And then I'll come back for the desolation. But like if you are like, oh, this is a team up of 4 shards against my shards, you kind of don't have a lot of time, and you need to be on like high alert all the time if you're the shard. I don't know.
Yeah, if events are coming to a head, time starts becoming more important.
Yeah. So what's up with this installation? There is the line, David, as you said, of no masks, no deception, which I really like that Southern Scadrian connection, because I kind of forgot. I mean, it's also interesting because they mention that they could speak the language just as if they'd always been there, which like, yeah, okay, plausible. We know that is possible to do.
Yeah, it was interesting because they actually used a device in the first one. They had like given them a translation device, and it didn't seem to be as fluid. So I wasn't sure if that was interesting, that it seemed a little different in terms of their technology.
You mean like, why didn't they just give them a coin?
Yeah, you know, like maybe they didn't want to do that, but it just seemed interesting that they could integrate it so fluidly, and instead they chose to make other device.
It is reversed from what the medallions do, right? Because for the medallion, you have to, the ones in Era 2, you have to be in the land of the people that you're trying to speak to, right? So for them to be in their land and read a foreign language is a little bit different. I don't know if that could be why. You track on that?
I think
Alec had to use the connection medallion to be able to speak their language because they were in the north.
My impression
but there's this whole scene where Marasi can't use the coin to speak in Alec's native language.
Sure.
Yeah, my impression was that was a limitation that would one day be overcome, and that this was like a 1.0 version of the medallions.
Version, as opposed to like Dalinar's version, which, you know.
Yeah. But
there's also like the fact that like the device was not just given them for the purpose of translating, but it was kind of like there to lead them to kind of break the whole, advance their technology so that they have an excuse to come and
because it also needed to be able to give them the ability to find the birds. So like it's possible they were just like, oh well, we made this trap piece of machinery for them. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that they explicitly were like, no masks, no deception, because to me that does not bode well for the culture of mask wearers, that they like wear masks all the time and probably don't associate them with deception.
I think that's more like an outgrowth of like, as they start to interact with like non-mask wearers, they understand how like other random people react to people who are wearing masks. So it's probably like within like Southern Scadrian, they probably still wear masks because that is part of their culture. But when dealing with new people, it's like we probably shouldn't wear scary masks when trying to make deals with them.
And wasn't taking off the mask like an intimacy thing too, actually? I just remembered that, where they were like, a leak like showed his face and he was like, I'm not supposed to take my mask off this often, but it was like kind of like he was being a little too flippant. So maybe they're saying like, we're taking our masks off, like we're not deceiving you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was more the impression I got. Like, This is like a show of like we are taking our masks off for you. Like, you should trust us.
Yeah, and I mean, it could be just as simple as that culture focused on masks. So, like, that word just, you would use metaphors involving masks more than, say, we would, right? Or Northerners would, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was gonna say that it doesn't even necessarily to me mean that they are Southerners, because I could see how like an idiom like that would work its way into the northern Scadrian culture after dealing with the Southerners.
I agree.
Yeah, because my initial read was like, this is a Northerner saying like, don't be like those mask wearers, no masks, no deception.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
I think it's more just an idiom that they got from the Southerners, and we don't know, but at least it's the trope in sci-fi that it's like the entire planet is under one government eventually, and then they go to other planets and things like that, and I imagine Southerners will use lots of metal-based idioms like the Northerners do, and like the curses that they use.
It does make me think that they are Scadrian, that they're not just like Allomancers from like somewhere else somehow. Like it seems like that's where they're from, and that was intentional by Brandon to make that mass connection.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. What's up with? Well, let's talk about the tech. Sack sees a vision of Dusk being killed. Like, apparently since the first 6th of the Dusk novella, Sack's visions aren't of immediate death. They're of more nebulous and far future possibilities, which is very interesting. So Dusk is seeing this vision of his death. One of the two aliens stood with their foot on Dusk's skull, the face smoldering as if burned by some terrible alien weapon. What did it mean? That reminded me immediately of how Shardblades work, like a burning out the eyes, although it doesn't say the eyes are burned. So, but that's what it reminded me of. That's why I'm like, are the helmets the thing and the burned, like, are these the shards? I don't know.
Yeah,
I just read it as like a typical like kind of sci-fi energy weapon of some kind. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, I always go like, is it medallion tech or is it sci-fi tech? You know, because I'm like, is there a medallion power that could do some sort of like heat blast? Like, I'm like, could it be a weird brass mine thing?
Sure,
like,
yeah, okay.
Or is it
literally burn them? Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's possible. Yeah, I'm almost wondering though, Shashara could make a Shardblade in some form. Maybe the Scadrians have some way to replicate. Like, they're not Shardblades, but they could still have effects like a Shardblade, where, like, a limb turns gray and, you know, your eyes burn when it cuts the soul. Like, I think that's plausible.
Oh, yeah. I think Brandon's just, in a definition that somewhat annoys me, has said that a Shardblade is just any sufficiently invested weapon.
I mean, but it's kind of true, though, right?
Kind of. I just don't think if it cuts, it should be called if it doesn't cut, it shouldn't be called a Shardblade, but that's just my, like, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, why are they called shards in the first place? It's just confusing for no reason, Brendan.
It does feel to me like it has to be like created in some way to be used as a weapon. Like, the thing that bothers me about the statement that any invested thing is a Shardblade, because like if I can make a metal mind that's like out of a sword, like, does the sword all of a sudden like become a Shardblade? I don't imagine that like a copper sword that's like, you know, packed full of memories all of a sudden like cuts through anything. It's just a piece of copper that has a lot of investiture in it. I feel like you have to design it in some way that it is intended to be used as a weapon for it to have those properties.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bands of Mourning are a spearhead. Would that be a Shardblade? I don't think so.
That was the context in which the question was asked.
Oh, really?
Was like, are the Bands of Mourning a Shardblade? And he's like, they're not invested enough. But yeah, my comparison was always like, you can put a lot of like energy in a battery, but that doesn't make it a taser until you like make it into a taser, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Then they have they needed their ship takes off, doesn't leave any sound. Dusk people didn't know what was up, but the ones above requested the launch pad to be made out of steel. So, I mean, that's probably just mechanical ways of lifting up.
mm-hmm.
I don't really imagine there's a lot of allomancers still, like regular allomancers. I think that's going to be really rare, but the mechanization of these things, like all their ships probably have something like this and power sources and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unless there's for some reason like another infusion of preservation's power into humanity's bloodlines, like, you know,
There could be.
I mean,
yeah.
Harmony's in charge. He can do lots of things that we just have no clue about, right? And then it said that the small ship would meet a larger one that's in orbit, which is interesting just because, look, it's not the lift that's the hard part of rocket science. It's the lateral parts. So you're actually orbiting the planet. It's not you got to turn eventually. So I don't know how they do that with this design.
Yeah, and the platform's not going to help with that.
No, not at all. I don't know. Whatever.
It could be like a geostationary orbit, like way up there, and it's just like going all the way out.
This is an early draft. I think
There's explanations.
I think this is an early draft, but
yeah.
I mean, their ship might have other means of like propelling itself, like once it's in space.
It can't just all be steel pushing, right?
No, it can't. Well, because I mean, like they'd have to find something to push off of for the big ship. You know, like are they pushing off the core of the planet as they move around? Like
to go Star Trek.
It's
the difference between like impulse versus warp engines. Or like the thrusters to like do slight adjustments.
Yeah. Like this is a good way to get a lot of lift quickly, but when you're in space, you obviously probably have some other navigational thrusters and crap, right? It's very weird how they mention our mathematicians, like on First of the Sun. Okay, sure. If the mathematicians are right, the orbital ships could reduce our grandest city to rubble with a casual shot or two. And they think that the ones above could wipe us out in a dozen more interesting ways, sorry.
And waves.
Yeah. Like shooting into the ocean so waves wash away our infrastructure. So, I mean, it's not just allomancy that's going on here. Like they clearly have a lot of firepower and stuff.
Some gunboat diplomacy right there. Like that's not a peace ship that's in orbit above your planet.
Well, I mean, the Enterprise in Star Trek had a frickin' conference center, but is also a warship. So it's like, those don't need to be mutually exclusive, David.
I haven't seen too much Star Trek, but I mean, like, you know, if I was going to show up and not freak these guys out, it wouldn't be an enormous ship that they can see with their steam level technology and go, oh man, that could blow us up easy.
I mean, yeah. It's just really interesting going back watching Next Generation where they're like, yeah, we have all of these, the entire families, but also we go into combat all the time. Okay, sure. We got to talk about like why like the planet will come a farming station. Like everyone wants the birds so bad.
Yeah. I was thinking more like farming station, like farming food too. Like they are having
okay, sure.
Like they need, because they're giving them nutrients that they're making their farm already more productive.
True.
Yes, but I do think they're here for the birds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There is a wob about this.
Yeah.
Oh, is there? Okay. Because the Aviar are definitely, they're not just novelties for whatever reason. Like I don't think there'd be this level of interest if it was just like, oh, you can tell which way's north with this bird. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. They probably can do that, but yeah, they're very interested in those birds. I mean, it's possible like they have not even genetic, but spiritual genetic editing capabilities. I mean, I guess technically Scadrians do have that, but where they could use Aviar and like manipulate that to do all sorts of wacky effects, maybe? I don't know.
Well, all I'd have to do would be change the birds, right? Because we know that the species of bird impacts what powers you get. So in theory, if you knew what you were doing, you might be able to genetically engineer a bird that gave you whatever power you wanted.
Yeah.
There is one wob from the Calamity Philadelphia signing.
Oh boy.
From Andrew Sterling MacDonald.
Uh-huh.
So there are many, according to the Six of the Dusk, there are many commonly known Aviar talents. Can you give us a couple examples we haven't seen yet? Brandon, those are from the notes. I'd have to dig them out. Let's just say they'll be very useful for navigation in the future.
Oh, navigation in particular, huh?
Maybe it's like a pirate bird on your captain's shoulder in space, and it's like, it's over there, go.
Yeah.
Huh.
What are they navigating to, though?
I can't help, I don't want to get into too many Skyward spoilers, but there's a connection there that makes me wonder if there's anything similar going on.
But also the democratization of investiture, because we might get into this later about how does the Aviar bond work? Because it seems just to be as they land on you and they give you powers, which is one of the easiest ways of getting an ability in the Cosmere.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of prereqs.
I wasn't confident that there was a real bond until we had that Aviar and Rhythm of War that could feel where its owner had been.
Oh, that's true.
And I was like, there is a connection that persists even from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a sense of how long that? I guess I was under the impression that it's not necessarily an instant thing. The bird has to bond with the human somehow, and I assume that takes a little bit of time for the bird to
make
that kind of a bond.
Yeah.
Well, in Six of the Dusk, Sack gives Vathi powers. At one point, Sack flies over to her, and she immediately sees dead bodies.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Yeah,
true.
But that could just be a thing that Sack being invested has more agency, and so can do that. Where if the bird chooses to do that, then it's fine. But to initially get that bond, you might need to do the stuff of the bird likes me and stuff. I don't know,
but you're right though that it can happen fast. If there's a will for that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of seems like it wouldn't be any different than talking through someone else's Sion. You know what I mean? If you were okay, the Sion's gonna do my conversation instead of, even though it's not bonded to me, it's still giving you something, but it's a conscious agent in that interaction.
God, Space Age Cosmere is gonna be so cool. Am I just making up a wob where Brandon said he was very excited for Era 4? I don't know.
I feel that is something he has said at one point.
I think that one. Yeah. I vaguely recall this, and I'm no kidding. Sounds great.
Yeah, I think that's why we got this, because Brandon, it's he can't even contain it. He just wants to do the future stuff so bad. He's okay, I'm gonna have to show them something.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever get this whole story, because he was concerned it would be too spoilery for the future.
He said 15 years.
The weird thing to me about the birds is I'm really curious what powers they have that they can't reproduce with other magic systems.
Right, exactly.
Because you have all these Rasharan Fabrials, you've got all these medallions and stuff they're doing on Scadrian that lets them apparently do all sorts of crazy stuff. So what is it about the birds that you couldn't do before?
Especially if you have shards on your side.
We just talked about the ease of the bond, maybe, but a Fabrial's Fabrial's easier than a bird. You don't have to take care of the Fabrial and make sure it stays alive.
Maybe sibling approved Fabrials.
You don't have to clean up its poop off your shoulder when it, there's something that the birds can do that other people can't do with their magic, I guess.
Yeah, Ian?
So literally the next wob in the search I did 5 minutes ago is from the Legion release party.
Okay.
Where Prince Dusty asked, you've talked about some of the correlation between Aviar abilities and Allomantic abilities. are there any Aviar abilities that are not related to Allomancy, or what are some of the other abilities we might see? Brandon, I'll raffle that mostly because I want to be free to pick and choose from my list as I canonize them. A lot of Aviar abilities are cognitive type stuff, just from the way I built them, so I can separate the magics. The whole Seeker Copper Cloud thing, a lot of Aviar abilities are going to be riffs on that, or they are going to be riffs on glimpsing the spiritual a little bit. And you see a lot of that in Allomancy. There are abilities that they have that you won't see in Allomancy. The trick is Allomancy is so broad, and yeah, that's all that is about Aviar. Yeah.
That is interesting, because the two new Aviar that we got in this one are both what I would call not, maybe one's cognitive, but there's one that lets someone see colors that other people can't see, which might be physical, and they have combat Aviar with unspecified abilities.
I can't wait for the aliens in spacesuits, and they just have like a little bird and plate, and then it's like, hey, what's up? I'm over here. That's possible though. You could have the bird and plate too if you want.
It's easier to bring a bird onto a spaceship than a Rhyshadium, probably. So,
oh yeah. Good luck persuading that. It's like, oh man, what's the situation of the spread in the far future? Oh my god, it's crazy. But
I wonder if there could be like birds that are like Atium, like allow you to, like, if the combat birds are like see like someone who's attacking them.
I mean, Sock is basically Atium, and kind of,
kind of, yeah, but a lot more direct, like
Electrum.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Basic principles acting there.
Yeah.
Or at least they were. Now it's cooler.
It's definitely glimpsing into the spiritual, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing that I was kind of curious about is the rules involving the ones above, because one of the main things in Six of the Dusk is they aren't allowed to trade with the humans on Six of the Dusk or on First of the Sun, apparently by their own rules. And the trap in the end was trying to get them to use that technology that they had been given to advance themselves far enough that they'd be able to trade with them. And Vathi and company are kind of like, oh, we're not going to, like, one of the last lines in the story is, we're not going to be taken in. Like, we're going to figure this out. But then jump to 6 years later, they have traded with them an enormous amount of technology and resources and power supply. They've revolutionized their whole planet. So what changed?
Let me give you my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
So the way I read the ones above is that they have some kind of prime directive where they're not allowed to interact with species that are below a certain
threshold
technology level, or at least they're not allowed to like give them certain types of technology without until they're ready for it or whatever. I don't think that they, at the end of Six of the Dusk, my reading of that was not that they decided like, we're not going to deal with them, because the argument that they make at the end of that story is that if they don't make a deal with the ones above, then they're going to go to the people on the mainland who are further advanced. They're going to trade with them eventually, and then they're going to come in and wipe out the Home Islanders, whatever the Home Islanders. They're going to come and just take all their stuff. And so her position is kind of like, we're either going to get taken over by them, or we need to be the ones that step up and do it ourselves. And so I think she's trying to kind of play this game of, I have to make a deal with the devil so that we don't just get overrun by the other people. And so I think that they did continue to advance technologically to the point where the ones above are able to trade with them now. The interesting thing to me is who enforces that prime directive on the ones above. Like, what is it? To me, it reads like a Shards.
Yeah, that's just what I was thinking.
Of a shard.
Talking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a crack theory.
Okay.
Ooh.
Who in the Cosmere would have a vested interest in protecting planets that, unless they want to be messed with?
The slave
autonomy.
Oh.
Okay.
Because it's basically the prime directive is giving planets the autonomy to like reach that level of technology without interference.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I actually believe this, but it was a thematic parallel that
True.
makes sense, especially since autonomy is invested in First of the Sun.
It could also be like this, as we'll talk about with when the Radiant shows up. It could be that whatever shards are in Endgame Roshar in Harmony, like they make a deal for peace, and so maybe those shards are out of the picture, which might be why they need Aviar. So it's less the shards being in open combat because maybe that's dangerous for some reason, right? That they don't want to, I don't know, wound the spiritual realm more. I don't know. This is total crack theory, right? Yeah. But there could be some deal in place with the shards that prevent them from acting. But it is interesting how Vathi's like, there are rules in space that prevent them from simply conquering us. And I don't know, that it's either an internal Scadrian rule or it's like a rules of engagement with the Rosharans, like a Cold War-y thing in space.
Yeah, there are two things that makes me think. One is non-intervention always makes me think 17th Shard. And I don't know if the 17th Shard is going to eventually start doing stuff aside from wandering around the Pure Lake. But maybe at some point
one day our name will be relevant.
Yeah. And the other thing that it was a line from the first one. Vathi says specifically that the ones above hint that not everyone above follows their rules.
Oh, okay.
So there's definitely factions that don't follow this prime directive. And that might just be Roshar. Like
that
Roshar
literally could just be Roshar.
To get them up to a tech level.
Like we're the high road. Those evil Rosharans, though, they don't feel the same way that we do. So you got to watch out for those jerks. Or it could be neutral factions. I don't know. Like, where's Cell in this? You know, like things like that.
I know,
because Cell's a big planet. They got a lot of. Oh man, this is so exciting.
Just can't find their perpendicularity to get off because it's just too big a planet. I guess they'd have the lake though, so that's
yeah. So after the ones above leave, then and we're like, oh, Scadrians. Then we immediately see a Radiant, and it is very obvious from the description of plate that's like, yes, the majestic sort of plate. It's all the description of plate that we usually sort of have, and it's a spaceman Radiant who apparently does not have any ship, and just is like, yeah, I just came down here myself. What's up? And apparently this Radiant has... Their voice has an unnatural cast to it. So I wonder what's up with that.
Yeah. I think rhythm. It's a rhythm. Yeah. And I kind of think that maybe at the end of Stormlight, the humans are going to be speaking to the rhythms too. So I'm not confident it actually is a singer. But I do I kind of think it's a singer.
I also got very singer vibes, especially since Dusk also describes as this man being very, very tall, which Rosharans are taller than the Cosmere average because of low gravity, but I think it's a singer.
Yeah, because it could easily be a singer in war form, where it's like, all right, you're pretty big, or some other fancy form, not even war form, right?
Oh yeah, and it's also a singer Skybreaker, which is awesome because it's not. We're like, okay, the singers aren't just going to be will shapers. I love the will shapers, but I like and if it's true, I'd love to see them in other orders.
And yeah, I totally agree that this is a Skybreaker because he's all about, is it legal for me to do this? He's like, no, it is not. So really feels like a Skybreaker Radiant, and that is super cool. I love that the alien says, you only have one gem with which to bargain. Oh, so great. I love the idioms being in the far future that, it's so good.
Yeah, I think one of the things that stood out to me the most about this Radiant was how un-Dalinar-like this Radiant is. It reminded me so much of when Dalinar was in Thaylen City and he's like, is this supposed to be how it feels when the Radiants come to your city? Join or die? And then this Radiant shows up and it's like, you will join us or you will be our enemy. There are no options.
Yeah, it's not super great, admittedly. Yeah.
I also get the sense that it's a singer. There was also another line where she talks about, it says the other aliens might have looked human, but Dusk was certain that this alien was something frightful.
Mhm.
To me, that was kind of Brandon, like that's just kind of like a writery cue that like this is not a human.
Not a human. Yeah. Agreed.
And like obviously the shard plate makes it look big and otherworldly from the first, anyways. But to me, that's how that reads, is that we're supposed to think this is a singer. And the fact that they're a singer, they might be using some kind of void light or something weird because they've got this purpley light.
Yeah.
We haven't got to that yet. But then is a Skybreaker, which the Skybreakers are aligned with Odium.
That's true. That's valid.
From where we are right now. And so to me, it makes me wonder if it's not necessarily like, this is like, they're not representing all the Radiants, that they're like with a certain faction of Radiants who are working for Odium.
That's
who
plausible.
Odium is at this point, who knows?
If Terravangian has all 3 shards or something, that's possible. I don't know. Some crazy things like that. I don't know. I do kind of want to talk about the light, because it says armor of a futuristic cast, smooth and bright, with a soft violet blue glowing at the joints, and the helmet has a arcane symbol. Remind Dusk vaguely of a bird in flight. That does kind of sound like the Skybreaker logo in a way. Like
a couple of them look like wings, so it's tough to say. But
it's tough to say. But it's like I could believe that this is one of these glyphs. Sure. I mean, violet blue doesn't read a stormlight to me. That definitely reads voidlight, right?
So if I remember correctly, Brandon did stumble over this description.
Speaking of light, you don't have it.
It's violet a second spot further down, though, as well.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know if like violet blue is like the exact phrasing of what it's meant to be.
Sure.
Agreed. Because violet blue made me think warlight, honestly.
Yeah, that's true. How did I think that we wouldn't talk about Rhythm of War in this?
Yeah.
Like, there's just no way. Why did I think this?
Yeah.
Yeah, although I'm not sure, was warlight violet blue, or was it just like, I don't remember.
It was blue black, like voidlight is purple black.
Oh, you're right. So it's not blue
but
violet.
Unlike stormlight, which is blue white.
Yeah, because voidlight's purple on black.
Yeah. Well, it definitely sounds like voidlight then. And I mean, like maybe another sign that it's still a singer. It could be a fused.
Dude, that'd be awesome. That would be so cool if it was like a fused that, I mean, we could have new fused. Like that's a thing too. It doesn't need to be one of these super old fused. We could have newer fused, and
who could have shard plate.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, and I mean, like, here, let me just see. Choose cooperation, slavery, or death. Does that not sound like the fused?
I mean, that's true. That's true.
Maybe it's Dalinar.
You mean?
Oh man!
And it's like
plausible.
I don't actually think this is a threat on the part of the Radiant. I think the Radiant is just how like the way they see it. Like these are the only options, and it's like either you work with us, like. Either like you are enslaved by
the ones above,
or like you will die in the course of the battle over you,
or you can cooperate with us.
It's just very utilitarian, in a way that the Radiants normally, at least most of the orders generally aren't. And so I wonder if it's just the Skybreaker who's got kind of an attitude, or if this is like the general feelings of the Radiants.
I think it's going to depend on the order, because there are still a lot of orders we haven't delved that much on. So it's like there could be a faction of Skybreakers, whereas like this is very in line with them.
It does feel like a faction of them, though, that's like opposed to what the Knights Radiant stand for. What the good Knights Radiant stand for.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I have a hard time like thinking like you said at the beginning. Like, I have a hard time thinking like this is like the Radiance, in the vein of Dalinar, what he's trying to establish. I think he would be really disappointed if he saw this.
Yeah, but you like Skybreakers in particular, they're probably of any Radiant order, can rationalize things really well and be like, dude, the ones above are awful. They're doing lots of awful things, presumably, especially because this person says your planet will become a farming station like many others, and I don't know. It's possible that there's a group that, you know, like they could rationalize it like, no, we do want other people to have this journey, but they can't do it themselves, and it's sort of like, I mean, actually, what just occurred to me is it's almost like what a Radiant would tell like a random village in the middle of a desolation who like maybe was so remote that didn't know a Radiant's like, dude, join us or you're gonna be killed by these other guys. Like, come on,
like,
right?
I don't view this as like antithetical to what like the Radiants are trying to do. This guy just has terrible bedside manner.
It is interesting that they're sending this Radiant. It's like, wow, you're kind of a dick.
Well, I was just thinking, if either of these factions are representative of maybe being like not, or maybe not representative of their whole planet's population, I'd say it's probably this Radiant, because, you know, he showed up kind of on the sly. He's not supposed to be there, at least as far as the Scadrians are aware. So like maybe like Rashar's like, hey, we're not getting involved. That's Scadrian territory. We're not going to start a conflict. And there's a group that are like, oh, we're going to go get a message to him. You know?
Yeah, that's like that's plausible. And I also just imagine that because there's so many different orders and different spren and who knows what's going on with Void Binding or the Fused and all this stuff. There's lots of... I feel like it would be harder to unify all these different interests on Roshar.
But and actually going back to like the glow being purple, we should mention that in the prints of the order from the Way of Kings Leatherbound, Skybreakers do glow purplish. So it's how much we are going to consider those canon is up in the air. I don't think it's something to be immediately discounted.
Yeah,
that's true.
Personally, like I like Steve Argyle's art. I thought they were really awesome looking. Like those plates don't match the descriptions of the plate in the book, which is, it's fine. It's awesome. It doesn't have to, but I don't put any stock in the Skybreakers being purple.
But also, contrary to that, there is also one line where the color of the purple being strangely inviting and is like, it doesn't match, which Voidlight is, that does embody Voidlight in my mind. Like it inflames emotions and it's like draws you in.
Oh, another thing, if it's Voidlight, maybe like in the future Radiants just have access to more, like they have access to being able to use various types of light a lot more easily. And we know Voidlight doesn't drain away as quickly. So if you're going to be in space, it might be the better fuel for you if you were to decide.
Yeah, it's really interesting mechanically, like, because it's pretty clearly a Radiant, but like using Voidlight, I mean, that almost makes me wonder if it's like an enlightened high spren or something, and that's common, and so like in the vein of Renarin, and I don't know how plate would work for the enlightened spren. Like you need a bunch of corrupted spren to form plate. I don't know, but
but actually speaking for why it's so obvious that this is a Radiant and not just somebody who has plate, we do see them summon their spren in shard form.
Yeah. And really
it's
cool.
A shard gun.
It's a shard gun. They need to take out like a package, a little power supply, and they shove it into that for like additional power, which, oh my god, that is so cool. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah. And in my head, I kind of think about it like, the spren don't seem to, like, I don't think you'd want to shoot your spren's energy out of the gun. Like, I think that would not be good for the spren.
Right.
And they don't seem to, like, you know, like, they kind of lightly recharge sand around, but they don't seem to give off a lot of investiture. So I feel like they have become the gun, and they've put Stormlight or whatever else inside this power pack, and that's what they fire.
Yeah, especially because, like, the the Spren is made of investiture, right? So you probably don't want to be splitting that apart. That seems bad, right?
Because Brennan has said it's the projectiles that are the issue with creating like a shard gun or a shard bow. It's like, what are you firing?
Mm-hmm. I was kind of thinking, like, I wonder if this is actually a hint back at the shard bow, like whatever that will end up being. Because I assume at some point, one of our many archers that is inevitably on the path for Radiance will have to get a shard bow. Whether it's cord or rock or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they could just have like heavy metal. Well, I mean, for a bow.
Is there a line from a line from Wendell about having to like bring your own string or something to like?
There is. He kind of is like
the bow.
Yeah, he kind of is like, I think he might even say that like they've used shard bows in the past, but he's like, I don't know what you'd make the string out of. Like he doesn't seem to be sure how to do it.
Okay. Well, this is a very efficient way of doing it. They clearly have taught the Spren the gun design, and there you go. You get a shard gun. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder if there's a particular like a purpose for it, because it kind of feels like it could just be like, this is cool. I mean, it's convenient that your gun can just appear out of nowhere, I guess. Like that's better than having to like pull it out of a holster or whatever. So
well, like, especially if
cool.
you're traveling in space, right? Like,
yeah, but I do like wonder, like, is there like a practical reason for the Spren to be your gun? Like, does it?
Yeah,
is
like
it
what
needed
advantage
for the ammunition to work? Yeah.
Oh right, sure.
Like, it goes back to like a bow. So like my thoughts go back to a shard bow. Like, so if you could make it like your Spren take the form to like have a bow, but you're just like shooting regular arrows with it, like what's the point of that? So same thing for the gun. Like, is it just cool, or is there something practical that doing this matters for?
Yeah,
it might just be tradition, honestly. Like, if the Spren have always been the gun, like the weapons of the Radiants, like, if you could make your gun out of anything, that'd be cool. But like, also, if you're a Radiant, like, oh yeah, you're gonna make it out of your Spren, because that's what the Spren do. They're your weapon.
It's also flexibility, right? Like you could probably design a variety of different guns, right? That maybe you could have a Spren artillery cannon or something, and you just need a bigger power supply, and if it's instead of a big rifle, like you could maybe make it a small pistol for other things. I don't know. Like there's a lot of advantages. You just need the right power supply, I guess.
It can't break.
Yeah, I can't break ever. Like you never need to clean it. Like, well, potentially, I don't know.
And it's because the Spren like does have control. It's like you could have a pistol and a sniper rifle like powered by the same power supply, because like they would have control over what that interface is.
Yeah, but like I think what you're saying, Josh, is like Shardblades, they have some very specific mechanics when they strike people, and like what they do that are special. Do these guns do these special things, or do the bows do special things? And I would say the bow that's just shooting regular arrows, I would say no. I don't know why you'd do that then, but would the gun, like if you're shot with this gun, would like your eyes burn? Right?
I think probably.
I mean, kind of depends on the specifics on how the projectile works and stuff. We're not really sure on the specifics of why Shardblades do that anyway, mechanically. Like, I don't know. It's just weird.
Because the eyes are the window to the soul, Eric.
Sure. Am I right there on what you were going for there, Josh?
Yeah. I just wonder if it does anything special, or if it...
Yeah.
To the person you're trying to kill. I mean, does it make your bullet shoot faster? Does it make your bullet, like sever somebody's soul somehow, or the energy, whatever it is that it uses?
I could see it being plausible that they only Spren can make this sort of gun. Like you can't replicate it through mundane means.
Or at least not easily.
So like whatever projectile, whatever they're using for the energy source or for the projectile, like a mundane metal would just like fall apart or something.
Yeah, something along the lines. Or there's like the inner like workings of that gun that transferred like this power support into a projectile is like just can't be made out of like mundane materials. Like there's weird investiture shenanigans going on that like can't be replicated without a spren doing it.
And also, like, presumably it's a very complex design that, like, you need things in a very specific shape. Could be really hard to manufacture. Maybe not impossible, but maybe you could manufacture something like it, but it would just be much harder than... I don't know what you do to teach the spren to be in this shape. To do this, presumably there's some training involved for the spren. I don't know.
I think it's just going to be a progression, because there is a thing with Syl in Rhythm of War where she's kind of like, I think there's a lot of things that we can do that we don't know because there was never time to figure it out.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And
so I think it'll just be a further exploration of the bond and the flexibility of what the spren can do.
Yeah, the flexibility is super OP.
Yeah.
I think it should be possible to maybe make some more mundane guns. It's just... the Radiants probably have the easiest way of doing it. Yeah. And you're going to use that as your prototype every time for experimenting with new weapons, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, I mean, if the power source is investiture and you're conducting investiture through this gun, like, does that mean you need to use Rasium to do that? Like, do they have a ton of that?
Mechanically, yeah, maybe you might need that.
It might be difficult if you don't have a ton of a god metal lying around.
That's an interesting point of the conducting investiture, yeah.
Unless your spren has some odium and investiture in it, and it's got some built-in Rasium alloy in there.
Well, I mean, technically, the blades have always been god metals, technically, right? Like, if it's Voidlight, that's plausible, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I also definitely think it's possible that this is some sort of corrupted, like, Void Knight or whatever, you know? Like, that's fully on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's totally on the table. We talked about this person being a Skybreaker, but like, what are your local laws regarding this? And just super Skybreakery. It's so much easier for me to read the transcript rather than listen to Brandon talk about it, because I just miss things all the time like that.
Yeah. The other little Risharan detail that I just loved was when he's offering him to give them back the birds, and he's like, we'll allow you to fight alongside us if you wish to gain status and elevation. And that is just like the most boring thing ever. They're like, you're going to be elevated.
That felt a lot like Vorin, you know, with the elevations and the battle for the Tranquil Halls. Like, that's kind of what this is, the Greater War. I don't know, in a sense.
Yeah. I
think the singers use the same language, though. It seems like Vinley, or maybe it's Raboniel talking to Vinley, talks about like being elevated at some point.
Elevated to fused, I think that's the phrasing she used about no one else has been elevated to fused. I think. I don't know. That's just interesting. It's the Rosharans are so obvious. Like the ones above, Scadrian has less like to grasp on until we had like the giant metal plate. That's like, it's any magical technology. But these guys is like, whoa, okay, you guys are definitely Rosharan, 100%. Yeah. No question. Yeah, and the line about like, we'll give you 1 out of 100 birds. The number 10, by the way, so more Rosharan detail. But yeah, I just don't know why they want the birds.
Yeah.
They really want the birds. They really, really want the birds.
I mean, it could be that like it seems more important than it really is. Like if it's these like big empires like off in space, like expanding and trying to like, you know, fight for power with one another, you know, maybe there's like, you know, a dozen other planets where like similar stuff is going on, and it seems like a big deal here, but you know, this is just like one more piece on the game.
It's still an advantage to the empire.
Like, we're getting this story from the perspective of one of the Elikin. Like the birds are their thing.
That it's obviously very important to them.
Yeah. But whereas like Kite Magic Planet probably has like people come in for their kite magic. And it's the biggest thing into Cosmere.
Yeah. The scene really it really jumped the shark when someone rode the kite down onto the planet.
Whereas like it's very plausible, like this is the third planet this Radiant has been to this week, and it's just like doesn't actually care anymore because like there's like so many planets that are having this exact same problem.
Yeah.
He doesn't. I mean, he doesn't seem like desperate like that for the
That's
deal
true.
to happen. He's kind of, like, we want this deal, but if you're not going to join us, then
that's tough. It's
Screw you.
your
Goodbye.
loss. Like, look, we're not going to force you. It's your own funeral or slavery. So then there's the line of that they will return in a month local time. And like, it makes sense for the Scadrians to have big ships in the sky, because we've always known that they'll have some sort of FTL. But like, you're obviously not lashing yourself to new planets and stuff as a Radiant. Like, that would still just take way too long.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, how do they what is actually going on here?
My crack theory is I think he's probably gonna go somewhere and get pulled through a perpendicularity by like an Elf Scholar or something, and they'll just pluck him right out of space. And that was the easiest way for him to get close without having to come through the perpendicularity himself.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
You know what they could do? All the Radiants could have like bases in the cognitive realm. Like, they could have fortresses in the land, like in the solid land, in the cognitive realm, and then they're just like, this is it's their version of a space station. It's just in the cognitive realm, whereas the Scadrians might do that in the physical. Oh man, that sounds sweet.
I'm hesitant to rule out the possibility of the Rasharans having some kind of FTL travel too.
They might.
I mean, it all really depends on how Brandon feels like allowing them to break FTL, because like there's no explanation. There's no like a real world explanation for that. You can't like use Allomancy to like physically overcome the speed of light.
I have a pitch.
Okay. Oh no.
Spiritual gravitation.
Oh geez.
I mean,
or cognitive gravitation, whatever the case may be.
Sure.
Break the speed of light by changing the speed of light, this constant of the speed of light in your reference.
Man, I'm really digging this idea of cognitive realm stations, and that's like, because they have the Spren, so obviously,
yeah. Transportation. They have a surge to travel through space.
Depending on how it works. I guess I'm just always hesitant to invoke like, that's what I'm saying when I'm saying pull them through the perpendicularity. But like, I'm always just hesitant to invoke like them teleporting someone to another planet when they can't even teleport around their planet yet. Like, I guess we'll see how it goes.
We do have the Exodus from Ashen though, right? Like, that happened. Brandon has kind of toyed with how that's happened, and I think what he settled on, right, was more of like an Oathgate-y type thing.
I think he hadn't settled.
You have Oath
that
Gates,
was
right?
The way he was leaning.
Yeah.
Dude, could you just like build Oath Gates on other planets? Like,
yeah, like why?
I mean, I guess you probably could. You just need to find the right Spren to convince to make the device, right?
Yeah.
And like get them there, but they're solving that problem already.
Yeah, but like if you're colonizing a new place, then like presumably you could just construct a new Oath Gate. Maybe. Yeah. It'd probably take a crap load of Stormlight or Voidlight or whatever. Like, geez.
Yeah, I'm definitely pro the idea though that the Rashar might have a stronger foothold in Shadesmar, and Scadrian might have a stronger one in the physical realm.
I
think that's very plausible.
Yeah, because they have the Spren, the Radiants have the Spren, so like obviously that helps. Whereas Scadrians don't really have that much connection to the cognitive realm, really.
Yeah,
in their abilities, right?
Oh yeah, well, we don't know much about their perpendicularity either. So like there's only so many ways to get to the cognitive realm.
Yeah, right. The Radiant Spren, they know all about the cognitive realm. It's very simple for them. Wow, this is so cool, and just there's so many awesome possibilities. Like, oh, what are cognitive anomalies? Like, we could find out in space age stuff. Who knows? There's some other stuff at the end. Dusk wants to find allies through the cognitive realm. So who are they gonna find?
Especially on foot in the next 1 month local time.
This is true. That's valid.
Yeah. my thought is like the only other major faction we know is the Weiry. Is the only people that I am like who might be in play, who has their own interests.
I think he's gonna find a faction from Silverlight.
Okay. Yeah, we have no idea how that operates, like what their political affiliations are in this struggle. Yeah.
Like, because in my mind, like I'm kind of picturing Silverlight as Cosmere, Switzerland, where it's
like neutral.
And like they could probably like enforce this is a protected planet. Like, don't mess with them. Or this could be the start of something like that.
Yeah, I wonder if like how well what's happening on First of the Sun is known beyond the Scadrians. You know, like are there other planets that would be like the UN and be like, oh, something bad's going on there, and they just don't know because they have no eyes on it? Or
I would. Yeah, because you can't get there by the usual way of perpendicularities. So the Scadrians, they obviously have their own FTL, and they will obviously give a very biased story. I imagine some Radiant would probably let other groups know of the Scadrian nonsense, right?
Yeah.
I'm just kind of circling back a little bit. I like that the whole idea of them having like this sort of cognitive like space station that's out up in orbit around the planet, because of the fact that now Dusk going through the perpendicularity into Shadesmar has a chance to like run into them while he's out there.
Dude, that'd be sweet. Oh, that'd be super cool and plausible.
So I wonder if there's like some like a couple of factions that might. I mean, we've seen the Weiry have had a fortress outside Scadrian, like out basically in orbit around the planet or the system or whatever.
Wouldn't
so. I wonder if there's other groups that are out there, and he might kind of bounce around between 2 or 3 until he like finds somebody who's willing to help.
Dusk has had Herdazian food, so
true. At some point,
I mean, any place that has a perpendicularity in the cognitive realm, wouldn't you want to fortify that location? Like if you were thinking purely strategically, the perpendicularities are very important. So yeah, you'd probably want some sort of fortification and defenses to that. Granted, this perpendicularity is not especially useful generally, but I imagine in Space Age, I mean, the Rosharans could probably have a very good foothold there, perhaps. But the Weiry could also have a fortress and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be like occupying like the space around the other side of the perpendicularity, you know, but I definitely could see them if 6 happens to be, I keep calling him 6, he's Dusk.
Yeah.
Like near the edge of where the map arbitrarily cuts off, you know, when you have to, you know, since the subastrals are weird, but he could already be near a boundary.
Yeah, right.
I wonder if his like supposedly his ability to like navigate through the dangerous portion of Shades, like he's been trained by Padgy, like he grew up in this dangerous world, and supposedly he's going to kind of go through, and he's going to be able to work his way through because he had the right training to be able to do that, right? And he's going to work a way out of it. I wonder if like that knowledge makes him really valuable to some other group to be able to get in, and so he could like go in and make some deal with some other group that's favorable to them. To hey, I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you access to the perpendicularity, so that you can just come directly to the planet. You don't have to do any of this, like build a fortress on the edge, and fly down in the physical realm. You could just land right on the you can come up right up on the surface of the planet, and maybe that's valuable. And he's the one that's able to be a guide to help them set that up.
Yeah.
I could totally see a faction that would be interested in getting involved, but doesn't have a way to get there. But if they could get, if the Risharan comes back and, like the Weiry are there, the 17 Charters are there, or people from Silverlight are there, what are they going to do? It's interesting.
I mean, they have a shard gun, so.
Well, yeah. So,
and presumably there's some third faction, right, who's not able to compete with the other two, and so they're willing to make a deal that's like not super advantageous for them in terms of the Aviar, because they never had a shot at that in the first place. But now that they have a way to get directly onto the planet,
they'll give us super
I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that like it'll be a surprise for them when they come back and they're like, oh man, we've already been beaten here by a faction we didn't even think could get here.
Yeah, okay,
That could definitely fundamentally change the dynamics of how things are going.
Yeah. I think candidates... Cell's top candidate, I think, because Cellish magics are absurd and OP in their own way. I guess the only other one I'd think could be maybe Taldane. I don't know. We don't really know what Darksiders could do at all, but they, before autonomy messed with things and cut them off, like they could be pretty advanced, so they could have all sorts of technology and stuff, perhaps.
Absolutely.
But like Elantrians are OP.
Yeah. And they seem like another one. I don't think the Elantrians are going to build spaceships necessarily. That doesn't feel like something that they might end up be like. I could definitely see them being like, oh, well, we're a cognitive realm only group. But yeah, well, we can come in. We can't fly in, but we can come in through Shadesmar. Yeah,
that seems more plausible. Man, geez, the Scadrians are terrifying because it definitely could have developed where like certain groups monopolized cognitive realm travel, and so the Scadrians are like, well, hell, how do we do this? And then we're like, well, we'll just build spaceships. What are you gonna do about it? You can't. And
yeah,
so we might not get big space battles, which is a little unfortunate because I do kind of want big space battles between these societies.
I think we'll get it.
Yeah. We're definitely going to have, because like at one point Skyward was going to be Cosmere, like that space. Like,
Oh yeah, we will see Radiants cut their way into a Scadrian spaceship at some point.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Oh man, so cool. With their bird.
Yeah. With their bird.
Go into this area on their hull. Go there. What else do we want to talk about? I do kind of want to talk about this weird medallion. I don't know if it matters. But the fact that it's called a medallion and we have Scadrians makes me immediately suspicious, just like when we see someone with a lot of rings. I'm like, well, I mean, I'm suspicious.
I don't think this is a unsealed metal mine. I think it's like a
big coin.
Not Medal of Honor, but
yeah, metal.
A Nobel Peace Prize.
Sure. Yeah.
In honor of 10th the Finder.
10th the Finder.
I wonder what happened to that guy.
Well,
I think he died quick.
I mean, I the way it's written, I wouldn't be surprised if he like made his way through and he's like out there still alive somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be dope. I mean,
oh, dude,
that would be cool.
That is totally a Brandon move to talk about. I'm talking about this character, and then Dusk goes into the cognitive realm and eventually finds that, because that's just foreshadowing, right?
Yeah.
I like this.
I have one crack theory that I'm going to just throw out there after having read Six of the Dusk again. I think Pachi directly intervened to make some sort of change to Sack and what he did and what he does for Dusk. And I'm not even sure that the freak out of all the Aviar was necessarily them opening the machine. Like, I think that because right before Sock has his fit of visions, Six calls out and says, "Father, what do I do?" And then nothing happens for a moment, and then all the Aviar freak out, and Sack's visions change. And so I think like they attribute that to the machine being open, but I could definitely see Autonomy, sitting there unable to see into the minds of mortals, or Pachi, and having one of his literal priests cry out for instruction, and then go, "Okay, I can help you." And I think Sokka is going to be important getting through. Like, obviously, because he is straightforwardly useful, but I think Sokka is going to be important getting through that perpendicularity.
I mean, yeah.
And not dying immediately.
Yeah.
But this is more commentary, but I did really like that Sack's visions changed. It actually reminded me of something from The Wheel of Time, where the character Nynaeve, like, one of her talents is like she can listen to the wind and know when a storm is coming. But like as she like leaves her home and it starts exploring the world, like it starts like not working how like she thinks it's working, because like she'll get this like sense that there is a storm coming, but like it's clear skies. And it turns out like instead of being physical storms, it's like metaphorical storms.
Cool. I wonder, I could totally see that being like a little bit of inspiration in the back of his brain, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There's some Wheel of Time influences in here, one or two.
What? Brandon liking Wheel of Time? I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember the ending of Six of the Dusk, the original. I didn't. We should probably do a podcast about that.
Yeah. Well, we can. Oh, we could definitely talk about it again, but
yeah,
that's a long ways away, though.
I mean, it is. We got a lot to talk about, and then we'll have Lost Metal to talk about. Yeah. It's like, oh my god,
Yeah, that'll be the 3 months before Lost Metal comes out. We'll circle back to this.
Right? Yes, when we can't talk about Mistborn stuff. That's right. Yep.
But yeah, anyone have any final thoughts or like anything else?
There was one line I saw. This is like Dusk talking with Vathy. Progress will come anyway, Dusk said. The dusk is past. This is the night. You will presume to find a new dawn and do what you must to guide us there. Which is a callback to in Six of the Dusk novella, based off of Elakin naming schemes. It's like your birth order and the time of day you were born. But Dusk mentions that like his mother named him not for the time of day, but for the metaphorical. It's like we are in the dusk of our people. So it's like the dusk has now passed. Like we are in the night.
Right.
So is that confirmation that Six is going to find a Dawn Shard out there if he's walking towards the dawn?
Sign me up.
All right. Yeah. Let's just go right off. We'll go into the darkness, off the rails instantly. Done.
That's the advantage that he's going to find. He's not going to find like some other ally. He's just going to find a Dawn Shard that enables them to like trump anything anybody else does.
Okay, and like Sack's ability gets like supercharged by the Dawn Shard or something.
Yeah. So he just makes the perfect move all the time.
Yeah.
Sack becomes the Dawn Shard.
Oh, nailed it. Nice.
Even better.
And what if the Aviar like turns into like a giant bird that they can ride? And so it's like, you know, remember in Avatar, you know, like a
I don't
dragon.
think the bird changed size.
Look, with the power of magic, anything is possible. Brandon said that many times. It's just if it's plausible, not so much. So then you could have, you know, the Rosharans, they're on their Lancerin. You have, and then you have these guys on Giant Aviar. I don't know.
Basically confirmed.
Yep.
For 2035 / probably 2040.
Oh boy.
15 years seems a little too short to me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We're going to be old.
Let's not talk about that.
We're going to be old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Josh, your kids can be on the podcast.
There you go.
You could have a Joff read Skyward with his kids. Like, hey.
Ooh, that's good YouTube content. I gotta say that this is solid YouTube content. Although, will YouTube even? Who knows what we'll be doing in 20 years? I think things will go horribly wrong by then, but who knows? Wow, I don't have any other final thoughts other than that I'm very excited for this sequel novella. But that's mostly because I was always very interested in the ones above and Six of the Dusk, and I did not get enough, and now I get a lot. So I'm loving that. And just also, I just love this like imperialism thing with like the Scadrians versus the Rosharans. It's really cool. And how will autonomy act in those situations? Like, what are the Shards doing? I don't know.
It's fun because there's so much we don't know yet. So we can just think about all the possibilities.
Yeah.
But yeah, I honestly was more excited about Shattering than I was like future stuff. And so now I'm pretty excited about the future stuff.
The future stuff's gonna be sweet. With like Brandon saying Hoyd's gonna be a main character, the Sleepless are gonna be useful in some ways, right? Like there's some other stuff too. I don't really remember the details of what he's all said, but
I've got a thought or two. One is, we kind of touched on this talking about like the whether or not the Knight Radiant seems like he's like, I don't know, in line with the other Radiants or not.
Yeah.
One thing about this that's really so weird to me is that what we see is like in Era 4, the Scadrians and the Rasharans, at least to these people, both feel like bad guys, like they're antagonists here.
Sure. Yeah.
And it makes me really wonder like where we're going in Era 4. Like I can't imagine the protagonists in like Era 4 Mistborn are like siding with one of these groups or the other, because they don't feel like I can't see like some protagonists that we're supposed to root for is like one of these people that's taking advantage of the smaller planets. So I'm really curious in Era 4 where that's going.
Well, I think in Era 4 we're probably going to find out why like the Scadrians need these planets, and we'll probably see like, okay, it's not as simple as like the Scadrians are just greedy. It's like there is a reason, and it's going to be much more morally gray. It's like from like the Elican perspective, like this is a very bad thing, but like it is being done for a good reason.
Yeah, I kind of just don't know if we really understand a lot about what that sci-fi era is going to be. Like there's a part of me that thinks like Brandon might, like there could be Rasharan primary characters as well. Like I'm not 100% confident that it's going to be an all Mistborn Scadrian cast.
I think, I mean, since it's the end of the Cosmere, I think we're gonna Brandon likes doing multiple viewpoints. He's not gonna limit himself to just Scadrians, right?
But also like Hoyd is a main character.
And maybe like Chris, and like where like everything comes together and our world hoppers were gonna, because the whole point is the hidden epic, right? That we have these tiny clues, but Brandon has kind of implicitly promised, no, we will eventually learn all these things, right? And so that, oh man, there's so much. Who knows what that plot's going to be? I kind of think part of it's going to be finding Yolan, but I don't know. But who knows what the plot is? I mean, did we come up on an earlier podcast like that the Scadrians are gonna like beat Trell, but then we're like, nah, we have to like expand and like defeat autonomy or something?
I think I said that earlier this episode.
Yeah, no, but I think we talked about this before in another show as well. But like that is very plausible, and like fighting shards.
I also feel obligated, I guess, there's a lot of parallels here with what we're seeing in future in Era 4 stuff with Odium's whole thing about the greater war of the surges.
Yeah, right.
Like foreshadowing like this bigger Cosmere struggle that's going on. And I can't help but wonder like how that fits in, because it must.
Oh, yeah. Like this is the greater war, isn't it? Like, isn't it? What else are we going to do it? Like,
I can't imagine a greater war. So,
well, yeah.
And I want to know what the shards are doing. Yeah.
It just makes me want to connect the dots with whatever's happening on Roshar now, and how does it get to this?
I don't know, because he says like when other planets discover the power of the surges. So is it a threat? Like they're like, we need to take out the surges? Do they want to seize some of the power from Roshar for themselves? Like that's kind of what
the hell does that mean
to be involved in?
I don't even know what that means.
20 years.
Yeah. Hey, the first 10 went pretty quick for me.
That's true. It's and honestly, this last decade, like going from 2010 on, we had some slowdowns due to Wheel of Time and things like that.
But like, be honest, do you really want to get to 20 years in the future that fast?
I want Brandon to do it right. I want him to set up the breadcrumbs, and I just don't want the Dragonsteel prequels. Prequels are always super hard to do well, right? Like, I want that to be cool, and we need the end of the Cosmere to be really cool. Way cooler than Dragonsteel, so...
I like that Dragonsteel is a trilogy now, because I feel like it'll be easy. Like, when it was a 7-book series, I was like, there's going to be another 7-book series that's going to, like 3 books feels like you can tell a tight story, and if it's going to be a first-person Hoyd, like he is at various times said so, I think that'll be pretty fun. But, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, but Like, I generally have faith in Brandon's Cosmere outlines that they end pretty good. But I think as we were talking, David, Brandon hasn't done very many endings, really.
Yeah,
He's done a lot more starts than endings. But
yeah.
That said, I haven't had any issue with Stormlight endings.
No. I just worry about series endings. Like, I like endings. The end of Mistborn, and that's the only Cosmere series he's ever finished. So,
but he did. I mean, he did finish the Wheel of Time series, which I guess it wasn't quite the same where he's like the one setting it up, but he did a fantastic job finishing that one.
Oh yeah, I just didn't read that. So that's like data for me. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's always people who are going to disagree, like who didn't like it. But I think on the whole, I think that most people are really pleased with what he did.
That's good to hear. Yeah, I just didn't like. I didn't like the end of Calamity at all, and I'm kind of souring on Skyward. So I'm like, But you know, I've got faith. I like his Cosmere stuff. I almost always do. So,
and I mean, cool. These are probably the things that he's been thinking about for a long time, and so he probably has like a really killer Cosmere endgame that's going to be really cool. That's why he's setting up all this stuff. But you know, I always worry. But at the very least, we know the Radiants are not getting extinguished. Maybe they're changing in some way. Voidlight, I don't know. But they're not all extinguished. Maybe, I mean, it is possible that maybe they're all serving odium. That'd be kind of a bummer Stormlight ending, but by the time we're done with Stormlight, we'll probably have a lot clearer sort of path towards Mistborn Era 4, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just Odium's not going away. You know, like they could splinter him, they can give him a different vessel, but like his power is going to be there and it's going to be causing trouble no matter what. So we're just really not going to
I guess that's true. Yep. All right. Well, we hope you had fun. Well, you know what we got to do next? We got to do Who's That Cosmere Character?
This character is from Roshar.
Menace. Tien.
Tom.
Braze.
Void in drag on a horse.
It's time for Who's That Cosmere Character? Caw. All right, you guys know the game. You send an email to wtcc@17shard.com with 5 clues and a character that corresponds with those clues. And we read the clues aloud, and they each get a chance to guess, and they need to guess who's that Cosmere character. And Ian usually wins, but there you go.
Seed victory already.
I don't know if that spreadsheet's been updated in a long time.
I don't think it has.
Yeah. It's kind of a lot of work. All right. So this first one is from Kalak's Breath on the forum. Clue 1. This character is not from Roshar.
Dang. We got that username and I was like, I bet it's a Rosharan character.
No.
I am going to guess Eotl.
It is not Eotl.
Kelsier.
It is Kelsier.
Yes! We go. Now Ian can't win both. Bingo.
Yes.
Nailed it.
So if you're sending these in, that's the thing you got to worry about when you're giving main characters, because those are things that we guess just randomly. Yes.
Yeah.
Clue 2, this character appeared in Era 2. Clue 3, this character almost gets shot. Clue 4, this character has blonde hair. And clue 5, this character dies.
Kelsier almost gets shot.
Yeah, I don't know about that. When did he get shot?
With an arrow.
With an arrow, maybe?
Or a coin.
With a coin? Yeah. They are called coin shots.
Tough to argue that one.
I know, it's in the name. Wait, I just needed to read a little further. Chris almost shoots him in Secret History.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that. That is useful.
That's a far better reference than what I thought.
Like, I just needed to read on, and I like how you also included that Waxy's Kelsier at the end of Bands. Like, yeah, we know. We remember.
I actually forgot that too for a second. So I was like, he wasn't in Bands.
Oh, really? You forgot that?
I was like thinking about being present. Like, if you want me to do like my pedantic cast, I'm like, well, is viewing a memory like no, but it counts. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. This next one is from Lightwing 888, and they listed the character first, which is very dangerous because that means I just want to say the character's name, that's dangerous. Clue 1. Ooh, I like this one. This character is a teacher.
6 of the Dusk.
It is not Dusk.
Say said.
It is not said.
A teacher.
A teacher. Yeah, that's why I like this clue, because it's not like, usually we have like combat abilities like stated, you know, and this is like a property of someone that's like, oh, okay, it's a little different.
It's probably not Kelsier.
He did
I
teach
mean,
Ben.
yeah, he did, yeah.
Kelsier.
It's not Kelsier. Clue 2. This character is married.
Married teacher.
Yeah. I'm changing the order of these.
Kai'ine.
It's not Kai'ine.
There you
made
go.
me say that. You're gonna die for the insolence.
Deora.
No.
Because I was gonna guess Kai'ine.
Sereni.
It is not Sereni. Wow, let's name all the married people on South.
She teaches fencing.
Yeah. Clue 3, this character doesn't go by their birth name.
Vasher?
No, it's not Vasher.
So teacher married with an alias or doesn't go by their birth name.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Vasher. Yeah.
Vasher's a good guess.
That's a good guess. I like that.
He can't go by his birth name. It doesn't know it.
That's true. And technically, was like, that fits for being married. He was married for a bit. Technically,
in the spiritual realm, he is still married to her.
Technically, that investiture is just in Nightblood now, but I guess he lost Nightblood, so like the investiture Shashara had. Right?
Technically, they never got divorced, so.
I'll guess silence.
It is not silence.
Ooh, that's a cool guess though.
These are good guesses. I like this. I did totally change the order of these clues though, by the way.
That's fine. I'm like stumped. I can't even think of anybody right now. Wait, okay, teacher, married. What was the most recent one?
Doesn't go by their birth name.
Doesn't go by that. That's such a. Okay, now I need to guess something, so I'm not playing this out. I'm gonna guess Yaddle, just because she could be married. We don't know.
No, it's not Yaddle.
Damn.
Clue 4. This character can change their appearance.
This feels like it should be a giveaway now. Galadon.
It's not Galadon.
Damn. Okay, I felt pretty good about that one.
Yeah, okay, because he is married. Well,
Ciri.
It is Ciri.
Ooh.
Yeah, I moved the can change appearance to later. The last clue is very fun, actually. This character is a vessel, capital V, which I like.
That is clever.
That is clever. Maybe I should have said that one sooner, but can change appearance. That was clue 2, and I'm like, that can't be clue 2. That's too obvious.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, because it's totally correct to say vessel, but it's just a totally different meaning than what we usually do. So
I would narrow it down a lot because we don't know very many vessels.
Yeah. That's why I was like, that should be clue 5.
I always wonder if that was Brandon like trying to foreshadow something, or if he was just like, he had the same idea twice.
Doesn't know the terminology all the time, and he's like, I don't know.
Well, I don't think there is actually any foreshadowing there is retroactive.
Yeah.
Because at one point, like, he didn't even want to come up with a term for that.
No, I mean more like he was thinking about that concept and used that word before he'd even come up with a canonized name for it. But I just know he likes to like tease things in Warbreaker, like all the command stuff. You know,
there's
a lot of fundamental Cosmere stuff in Warbreaker.
That's the first thing that they say invested, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so that's where it is. All right. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this shorter episode. I'm okay with that as editing these. But this was really cool. You can go check this out on the forums. There's a thread, and in Discord there's also an area kind of to talk about it. But it's weird. It's weird knowing far future stuff, right? But it's very cool. If I was Brandon, I would be like, wow, these are the things that I'm thinking about of just being so awesome.
I know. I wonder if he's like, man, I got 6 Stormlight books to write before I can.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure those have very exciting things. Because didn't he say, was there a word of Brandon where he was like, oh yeah, books 5, 8, and 10 are like really killer Stormlight books?
I've definitely heard the 8. I've heard the 8 thing before. He likes to say Stormlight 8. Absolutely. Yeah.
I do wonder if we'll get this sequel like earlier than he originally like would have preferred, just because he's like really itching to write it, and he'll get to a point where he's just like, it's not that spoilery, and he'll just
it's like
Brandon has no concept of what a spoiler is.
Right.
Way of Kings Prime is very spoilery. It's like, no, I'll give it with Kickstarter. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Like,
Or
okay.
it's like coming out and saying Vivenna is in Oathbringer like 6 months before it comes out. Just like,
Or like,
Brandon.
oh yeah, we'll have the canon shard names before. Like, why? Why would you do this, Brandon? Just stop. But I get it though, because you have such a lead time from when you've written that first draft to when people actually start to read it that you do really want to blab.
I know. It's got to get weird when you're like, well, I wrote that 2 years ago. And they're like, well, it just came out last week. So
Yeah, I'm sure that is quite strange. Anyway, bossons70char.com for all your news, discussion, theories, and fun that you want. You can join us in Discord, the link's below. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can leave us a review on iTunes. And if you like our stuff, you can support us on Patreon if you want. And we'll see you all next time for something. I don't know. I don't know when this episode's airing. Whatever.
Bye.
peace.
See ya.
Ta.